You know what I saw this past weekend?
What did you see?
More injuries.
Yeah, it's 2024. They should just rename this year of the Injury.
If you are a team that is lucky that has not received an injury to a player in your squad, buckle up because it's coming your way.
It's coming.
Here's the waivers for Week 8. And welcome back to the Standard Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Jono.
And I'm your host, Chris. And we are jumping into yet another week of replacing key positions. And that's what we should name this. It's not waiver wire. It's replacing your roster.
Yeah, it's what can you fill in to somebody who's gone for the season?
How many IR slots do I have?
Well, let's just go over some big key injuries. Before we jump into the meat of the content here, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that bell, ring it so you get all the notifications of our episodes, shorts, and etc. moving forward.
Ding, ding, ding. Hit that notification bell.
So some key injuries here.
Obviously.
It was aggressive.
It was aggressive. Deshaun Watson also aggressively tore his Achilles.
And aggressively is out for the season.
Yeah.
And aggressively got chanted by the Browns fans.
Browns fans. I'm
You
a Jets
deserve
fan.
it.
I'm a Jets fan. And you guys are brutal.
That's bad.
That's bad. I grew up around Eagles fans, Giants fans, Pats fans, Jets fans, and I'm going to tell you straight up, Browns.
That was bad.
That was bad.
Yeah.
Have more class. All right. Have a little bit more class. I get what he did. I get that he's a disappointment, but have a little bit more class. Someone just ruptured their Achilles.
Yeah, I mean, you boo Saquon at MetLife. I get it.
Yeah.
You tell
He
somebody
goes
you
for
deserve it. I don't know about that.
Yeah, and especially with injuries, and this is their livelihood, and you think what you will, but injuries are huge. Deshaun Watson is going to be out for the season.
Oh, yeah.
What to do? I mean, we also had DTR go down in that game. He's going to be a game time decision, kind of day by day.
Either way, at that quarterback spot, we'll allude to one of the wide receivers here, but I think it opens the offense up a lot. Deshaun Watson was dealing with a lot of indecisiveness, running himself into sacks often. Listen, the offensive line's not good. When Nick Chubb, he's coming back off an injury, but Nick Chubb ran for one of the worst games I've ever seen him in rushing totals in yards per carry. We're talking about a guy who's over 6 yards per carry in his career. He ran for half a yard per carry. Was it 11 carries for 22 yards?
Yeah,
something like that.
It was bad.
It was like 1.5 yards per carry. So 2 yards per carry. 2 yards per carry.
2 yards per carry.
God, math is so bad.
Math is tough. We both graduated college.
Math is math.
He has his master's.
I do.
All right?
Not my mathers.
Not mathers. Yeah, I mean it's a tough injury. The Browns' offense it doesn't look like it's been unlocked with Deshaun Watson. The offensive line stinks. It's poor play.
Nobody was starting him. Nobody was doing anything. The only thing that this may affect more than anything is teams are now just going to try and stack boxes against Nick Chubb. He's the best player on that field. Jerry Jeudy looked like Jerry Jeudy in Denver, dropping balls. He was open at times and not being hit, but he also wasn't open at times. And we'll talk about who we like here in a wide receiver pickup because this team's going to be from behind. They're going to have to throw the ball. Their defense is good enough to keep them in games. We saw that this past weekend.
Yeah.
So moving on to Brandon AIYUK. This one sucks because going into the fantasy draft, you didn't know what to do with AIYUK. You didn't know where to draft him. He kept dropping because of where he was going to go. Was he going to be a Niner? Was he not? Was he going to sign contract? Was he going to not? The holdout, all that. And then all of a sudden now he's out for the season with a serious knee injury. They just confirmed it today.
Just another injury for the 49ers. And yeah, he's going to be out for the season. Tough loss for him. I mean, he got paid. That's great, great for holding out.
Oh yeah,
this is why players do it. I mean, so this is a perfect example of why that works for the players. And I know as a fan, it's hard to watch, but if he did get hurt, he's been a staple in this 49ers offense since he would have
been hung out to dry.
He would have been hung out to dry, and
financially,
and what he's done. It's good to see. Hopefully the Niners stick by him. I think he's going to be a Niner for as long as this contract plays out. I don't expect any cuts with him, but a tough loss for AIYUK. Get better soon, my brother.
We got another quarterback, JAYDEN Daniels.
Yep, JAYDEN Daniels.
It is a week-to-week injury. He is expected week 8, but don't be surprised if they do shelve him for a game, just if it is a pain tolerance thing, because the last thing you want to do is put him out there and you make matters worse by taking a hit from the quarterback spot. We've seen it before where quarterbacks came by, extra rib pads, and they play, and then they get removed, or they play the whole game. And then we've seen it on the opposite end where they just sit them one more week, especially a rookie quarterback here. They are playing the Bears in a tough matchup.
Well, I think if they
coming off bye,
I think and I think if they do play him, if he does play in this game, you're going to see a lot less running. I watched it on the very first play offensively for them. He has a big 47-yard run, takes a big hit, and I thought he should have went down like 3 or 4 yards prior to that.
I've said that many times. He's got to learn to. I get it though.
I said this when in the pre-draft discussion when me and you were talking about it. I was like, he needs to put on some weight, and you're like, oh, he's going to put on weight in the offseason. He was playing like he's a big guy to begin with. I'm like, he's not that big. He's a skinny guy, and he's not taking hits.
Well, but even Anthony Richardson as a big guy can still have season-ending shoulder surgery required because of taking a hit too.
Sure.
Like quarterbacks are not running backs.
No.
They don't wear the same pads either. They're not wide receivers, which receivers don't take those hits that often either.
No, but his frame's a lot smaller. This is something to monitor this week, but if he does miss time, it's probably just going to be a week. There's no fracture on the ribs, so
he'd be a sit for me this week anyway if you have because he's likely not your starter off the rip from the draft, so you probably have another quarterback in mind there. The only reason I have him more of a sit this week is he is playing Chicago's defense, and in a game where he's probably going to rush less because he's not going to take the hits. He's also, the pain came in the throwing portion of it. So if you wince and you pull up a little bit short on your throw, it does affect the trajectory of a pass and can end up being an interception versus a completion. So I'm a little bit more weary on that. The Chicago defense is pretty damn good. So, but their Washington defense is kept in it. We'll talk more on the start-sit this week. DK Metcalf, knee issue. This is a week-to-week. It's considered a grade 1 sprain, so low-grade sprain. Just came out today. Actually, in the past couple minutes, we're talking here at 4:50 p.m. on Monday night. So that's good, but he's most likely going to miss next game. He's probably going to miss next game, and he may miss a secondary game. It depends on how it comes back. Luckily, this team does have a fantastic backup wide receiver, 2 wide receivers. The one person, I don't have him on our list here. We'll talk though as some deep picks up here, but Jake Bobo is the first one that comes to mind here. Is the guy's going to be there in 3 wide receiver sets?
Yeah, and I think JSN is going to have his 8 out's going to jump up just a little bit.
It better,
and
or
but
at least
I do think Bobo is a really good option this week. I don't even think in deeper leagues. I think he has a chance to kind of go, and we've seen this in the past where Metcalf's been down and Bobo's come in and had two touchdowns in the game or a touchdown in the game.
He gets open.
He gets open. So and they like to use him. Rashid Shaheed had the knee injury. So
when we talked last, it wasn't season ending, and now it is.
Yeah, it wasn't season ending. Now it is. He's out for the season. That we kind of alluded to it. Everything that we said last week in the waiver wire episode should apply now for the rest of the season. It means guys like Bub Means should have greater value moving forward. For season-long purposes. Aiden O'Connell broke his thumb. He's going to be out minimally 4 to 6 weeks. I'm assuming. I'm pretty sure it's going to be on the longer end of that. It is on his grip hand, so that's going to be tough. It's depending on how quickly he can come back from it. But typically those injuries are going to be around the 6-week mark to where they're.
You're not starting him anyway, but it puts a at least they still have Minshew, who's not looking great, but at least they have him. But there's no pass catcher there besides Brock Bowers, who's just going to get fed and fed and fed. That you're going to start anyway. Curtis Samuel, this is on a low-end shoulder injury. That's going to be to determine how bad the shoulder injury is this week and see. All this does, I mean, he went down the pecking order anyway. With the fact that Ray Davis is running the ball well enough as a backup, they're running the ball really well with Cook. Their running game is fantastic. And then you look, they bring in Amari Cooper as the wide receiver 1. Keon Coleman shifts to wide receiver 2. And we'll talk briefly on that in the wide receiver section here. But it kind of just phases Curtis Samuel out because Shakir's there. And I just don't see a point. He's a droppable candidate.
Yeah. Curtis Samuel's been a droppable candidate. There's no reason to hold on to him now, especially with Amari Cooper at this point, week 7. We've already seen kind of the people who are going to emerge in that offense. It looks like Keon Coleman's a rising star. Amari Cooper, they obviously bring him in, and Shakir still has a role in that offense as well as Kincaid. But on a positive injury news,
I think it's the best news for fantasy owners right now.
Yeah, I mean you're going to have an offense that gets completely unlocked again. So Tua Tagovailoa is practicing on Wednesday. He's going to look like he's going to play in this game. And this dismal offense, which there's a lot of high-end players in, should be relevant again. And we talked about it last week where I had Tyreek as a sit. He should have been a sit this week.
He wasn't targeted in the first half of the game. Like he should have been a sit last week. I was kind of on the fence because it's hard to sit a guy. I called him a wide receiver 3, which he was in fact a wide receiver 3 but worse. But at the end of the day, if Tua doesn't go week 8, he's a sit again.
Yeah. He's got to be. I mean, that team looks very poor outside of a couple big plays, and they played against Indy and still lost the game and only mustered 1 touchdown.
Yeah. Well, those are our key injuries here. Keep your ear to the ground when it comes to stuff
in the waivers.
If any major headway comes for any of these injuries, we'll be sure to pop a short out for everybody to get you up to date. But as Chris said,
now we're going to the waivers.
Waiver show.
Waiver show. All right, jump in. Here we go. Quarterbacks. We got 3 on here. All
yeah,
right.
Again, we're talking streamers because at the end of the day, most of the high-end quarterbacks are owned, and most of these guys who are on our list every week are owned, so I don't like calling it quarterback waivers because even in 12-team leagues, 10-team leagues, like most people are going to have 2 quarterbacks, especially with this past year, the amount of backups that were there. But we're talking Caleb Williams at Washington this week. I think it's a plus matchup. Yes, I know the defense came together against Carolina, but that was also Carolina. Caleb Williams has a little bit better mobility than obviously Andy Dalton did, so I like that. Bo Nix versus Carolina. We saw what the backup Mariota was able to do to Carolina this past week. And I think Bo Nix is starting to grow with this team and starting to take it under his wing. And the receivers, you got Troy Franklin stepping up now. He was on our short list of wide receiver waiver stashers this past week. So I just think this team is going to continue to put up points with Peyton. And then Kirk Cousins against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is a pass funnel defense because they are difficult to run on. Even though Atlanta's been running the ball well, that's why Kirk Cousins hasn't been playing well because they've been able to put the ball in the end zone from the ground. And in games when they can't do it, Kirk Cousins seems to shine. I mean, we're used to that from Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, these are all options. I'd probably still hold off on Bo Nix. I'm not sold on him, especially with the week 8 with no buys. He's probably not going to be a startable option, even though they're playing against Carolina. I don't think this offense really spreads the ball enough wide receiver, like from a wide receiver and a standpoint. I know he had a good week last week. Are we going to expect a blowout again against Carolina? I expect a better matchup this week with Carolina.
I just like his rushing upside because he tends to rush for a good amount. He's doing what Baker Mayfield's doing, just not as effective at doing it. Like Mayfield's on fire right now. But the thing about Bo Nix, again, yeah, you're right. There's no bye weeks this week, but you are missing a possible Jaden Daniels. You are missing some people who have starters in bad matchups that you may want to err on the side.
Anthony Richardson owners.
Yeah, like you may want to err on the side of grabbing somebody like Bo Nix because he's probably likely to be on waivers still.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you have some options available, go ahead and drop a comment. If you have a choice between a couple quarterbacks that you're wondering on who to start this week or who do you play in matchup base,
we'll rank them for you.
We'll rank them for you gladly. Respond back to those comments really quickly for you guys when you're getting into your waivers or even going into your start sits going into the weekend. Going into running backs, we got 3 running backs on this list. Ray Davis being the priority ad. I think Ray Davis is starting to – I don't think he's taking a 50-50 workload here. But
he's a flexible play,
He's a flexible play, and he's kind of the early season Braylon Allen right now. Braylon Allen's kind of been put on the shelf the last 2 weeks when in a big push for Breece Hall to get involved a little bit more, and we're seeing how that's paying off for Breece.
Breece is the better running back.
Yeah, for sure.
Just like Cook is the better running back.
But I think Davis
is going to spell some carries.
Yeah, and I think Davis looks good in those runs. He looks good as a competent runner. He's getting high yards per rush average. They're trusting him down the goal line. They're trusting him in the red zone. They're trusting him in the pass game. And this is going back into the pre-fantasy draft. We talked about Ray Davis's fit on this team, and I think that he is a really good fit on this team because he's a versatile 3-down back. He can pass pro. He can catch. He can run.
What bothers me is this team still wants to roll out Ty Johnson. Like, listen, don't get me wrong. The guy can pass catch and he can pass protect pretty well. And I get you don't want to put your star running back into having to block on 3rd down, which is what Johnson's mostly doing. He's not running that many routes. But, like, at the end of the day, like, you're almost telegraphing what you're going to do, Buffalo.
You're just mad because you're a James Cook owner. And then he sniped a touchdown, and Ray Davis sniped a touchdown.
I'm not the only. The Ray Davis touchdown snipe. It was a good run. I give it to him.
And the next guy on our list is Jaylen Warren for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think Russ definitely unlocks something with this offense, and Jaylen Warren is going to factor into being a piece of this offense. So I like, obviously what Najee has done over the last 2 weeks, and he's looked good. He's looked younger, more explosive, more physical. But Warren came in last night and did a lot of either late game work, screen work, pass catching role. He's going to have a role in this offense.
He's explosive running back. We like that.
Yeah.
Like he hits the hole hard. Najee's looking good too. One of the things I like that the Pittsburgh offense did, and I think will continue to do, is they schemed in plays to get the ball out of Russ's hands quickly, and they made the easy passes. I mean, Russ had a couple of big misses on some passes while on the run, and that's just going to come with a little, dusting the rust off. He hasn't been doing passing on the run for weeks now because he's resting that calf strain. But all his passes from the pocket look clean, look good. He had a great touch downfield, but that downfield threat opens up when you let the corners double check if the running back's coming out the backfield, and Jaylen Warren did it a lot. So I think they're going to continuously scheme that. So especially in PPR leagues, I think he's going to have good value.
Yeah, and the third guy on this list we'll talk about really quickly, and this is only for if Jonathan Taylor misses an additional week, is Tyler Goodson. He looks like the clear number one on this team without Jonathan Taylor there. But if Jonathan Taylor does play, he's nothing more than a stash. I don't expect him to get a significant workload.
Yeah, deep league stash in my opinion too.
And when Jonathan Taylor comes back, but if Jonathan Taylor is not playing this week and you are someone who's dealing with some running back injuries, he is available in a lot of leagues. I think he's only 20% owned, 22% owned. So you can go and snag him up if you need a bye week replacement. I don't love the matchup for him.
Well, there are no bye weeks, and I agree. I don't love the matchup for him.
I don't love the matchup for him, even if Jonathan Taylor doesn't play. But it is a divisional game, and you never know. Those games can get physical and be hard nosed. And Indy has had success against Houston. So yeah, we'll see. I'm not a huge fan of this. Like some of these guys you want to add into deeper stashes in case you are running. There are probably teams out there that are dealing with significant running back injuries. All on the same team. So if you are one of those teams and you are one of those players, there are some deeper options that are available to you. Moving into wide receiver, official news again on AIYUK was a torn ACL and MCL. He's going to be out for the season. So who's going to step up into that role? And there's two guys. It's Juwan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall.
I mean, I think there's three. You see Jacob Cowing. This gives you the same problem that we had before. A lot of mouths to feed, and when Purdy's not able to pass the ball effectively, everybody gets affected.
Yeah, but they're not playing against Kansas City every week.
No, agreed.
And so,
but again, to me, you still have Debo. You still have.
Well, Debo got hurt in that game too.
No, he was just sick. So they kept him out. So Debo, he was sick going into the game, so I didn't trust him as a start anyway. But Debo, Pearsall, Kittle, Juwan Jennings, Jacob Cowan, they all have their. To me, Juwan Jennings should be the first one off the board because he should,
and then Pearsall.
Should be next. Cowing's nothing but a flyer down the field, a field stretcher for them. But he's going to have like some deep ability in.
He's going to have some big games.
Leagues, dynasty leagues. You should make sure he's on a team.
And he's going to have some big games, but I think the volume play is going to be Juwan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall for sure. I mean, Pearsall looked good while he was out there. I love the meme yesterday, and I sent it to Nick, and you sent it to any of your CMC owners out there that Ricky Pearsall got shot in the chest and made it back to playing a game before McCaffrey did.
McCaffrey.
Yeah, McCaffrey. Going into some deeper pickups, which I think there's some really good options on here. Cedric Tillman, we kind of alluded to it earlier with the Deshaun Watson injury. I think either DTR or Jameis Winston. Obviously, if Jameis Winston is a starter, Cedric Tillman should be owned because he's going to throw the ball.
Yeah.
If it's DTR and he's going to be the kind of like the long-term play.
I mean, DTR still was thrown to Tillman a ton.
I know.
And he's a good red zone threat, I think, because he's able to do the 50-50 balls.
I know. I just don't. I don't trust DTR spreading the offense out a lot more. I think it's very similar to the Justin Fields run Steelers or the Deshaun Watson-led Browns.
Let's take a quick thing on DTR because this makes me laugh. This just shows the Browns' incompetency, to be able to hold a good quarterback. First off, they got rid of Baker Mayfield too early. We see what Baker Mayfield can do. But look at the quarterbacks that they've had as starters and the ones they've been drafting like crazy, right? Well, DTR was the number 5 quarterback on their board last year during the draft. And I'm just like laughing to myself. I'm like, that just proves to you, like
2 years ago.
2 years, yeah, when he was before he was rookie. But that just proves to you the length of the quarterbacks that they had in that draft, and then he was your number 5 option there. I'm sure he wasn't number 5 on a lot of boards.
I mean, they had success with Joe Flacco, and they let him walk.
Again, that's why I think Winston could be successful.
Yeah, I do too. So, but Tillman, if Winston starts, I like him a lot more. The other guy here in a deep sleeper option is Roman Wilson, and I want to get his name on people's radar here because
I wanted to last week, but the injuries he's been dealing with.
Yeah, he didn't play yet, but this is a guy you can go and grab early. I think he's going to be a late season option. He is a great route runner. He would be a great additional number 2 outside of Pickens, especially with the way Russ looked yesterday.
Good hands, great yards after the catch.
Yeah, so Roman Wilson's a guy you could probably pick up for free in most leagues. He's very, very low percent owned, and most people aren't going to be on him unless they're watching this podcast. But
which then, Troy Franklin should also be on your team because I brought him up as a deep sleeper.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to – you already seen his snap percentage go up significantly, and he's getting the trust again from Bo Nix.
Yeah, the trick with waivers is not to buy players right after their blow-up week, right? Everyone's going to be paying fab for that. It's trying to predict 2 weeks out, like who these guys are going to emerge into systems, and a lot of people are going to be off of the Browns, and a lot of people are going to be off of guys that are coming off injury. And I think that's a perfect opportunity to go and snag a guy 2 weeks early for free rather than paying 20% of your fab to go and get a player after they blow up already.
Especially with the caliber of the teams that have already had bye weeks.
Yeah.
And the ones that don't have bye, the other caliber teams aren't having bye weeks until 10, 11, 12. Like, you had the big teams in weeks 5 and 6 really done with, which is nice. So
yeah. There's one more wide receiver on here that we want to talk about, and he is higher owned, but there are a lot of people
but he's
out
lower.
there.
He's 32% owned, I think I just saw in sleeper leagues.
Yeah.
That's not higher owned. That's unbelievable that he's not owned. People have been dropping him.
That's the problem. Is that he started out the season with high ownership, and people started dropping him, and that's Keon Coleman. And guys, this is one that you should absolutely go and pick up right now. If he's available in your league, go and pick him up.
Pick him up, pay for him.
Pick him up and pay for him because they are putting a stress on getting him involved in the games. We saw this last game. We saw this against the Titans. And yeah, I know Amari Cooper is going to be the number 1. Amari Cooper got the touchdown, but Keon Coleman did have a touchdown in that game that got overruled. He stepped out barely out of bounds and bobbled it. But they're making an effort to get him involved, and I think this is a perfect setting for him. They have a true number 1 on the other side. They allow Keon Coleman to be a number 2. And he's probably going to get a lot of the Gabe Davis style plays from this offense,
which is fine because we've seen some boom games, some bust games. He's a better receiver than I think Gabe Davis is. He may not be as fast, but he's got better hands and he's better in the red zone than Gabe Davis was. Davis was known for those downfield 40-yard touchdown, 30-yard touchdown. Coleman can get that with the yak ability, but he's also good from the 10-yard line for getting open in the corner of the end zone on a corner fade. But the one thing too to note that if you go back and watch the game film against Tennessee, like Cooper wasn't on the field that often. And he wasn't on the field for the majority of the catches that Coleman had, if not all of them. So that is at least a good sign for your Coleman owners that there's the ability for the two of them to be on the field. And it's not like, Coleman's going to get boosted because of Amari Cooper's presence on the field. He did it without Amari on the field. And I think both of them can play off each other pretty well.
Well, you saw the touchdown that got nullified, and then there was another play. I think he had 3 targets in the red zone, and which is great for a rookie receiver. And anyone that's getting 3 targets in a game in the red zone, you should have in your team, especially in a standard format. He's going to have the touchdown capabilities. And I said this earlier in the season. I think his ceiling is 8 to 10 touchdowns, and I think he can get to 8 touchdowns.
With the yards after the catch, that's where you're going to see most of these guys get to the 8 to 10 touchdowns.
Well, I just think the slant routes and the corner routes that they like to throw to him, and especially
the one-on-one.
We're still in week 7. There's been some notable receivers that didn't blow up until week 8 and 9 in their rookie season. Yeah. Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Those guys weren't late season producers in their rookie season. This is a perfect opportunity to get a guy that had a lot of touches, that's had a lot of opportunity, that maybe didn't blow up on the scene right away. Pearsall, great option. Cowing, good option. Keon Coleman,
Wilson, Troy Franklin. These rookie receivers, especially
there's
after
a lot of guys out
bye
there.
weeks or leading into bye weeks, you start to see them, or halfway through the season at least, which is where we're kind of at that point here, going into week 8, is where you start to see snap percentages go up, usage go up. They start to get comfortable with the offenses, and the coaches get comfortable trying to scheme them into the game more.
Yeah. So
let's
move
talk
on to
about
tight ends.
ends.
Yeah, tight ends. So let me get this out of the way first, okay? Let me get my little rant.
I put the note in for you. We didn't put it up on the screen for here, but I made sure to put a note down on the.
Let me get my rant out of the way, okay? If you didn't hear me last week, hear me now and hear me loud, okay? If you are struggling from the tight end position, go and pick up Hunter freaking Henry. He is going to be a top 10 option for the rest of the season, guys. He is going to be the only every week viable pass catcher for the New England Patriots. Now that Drake May is starting to take the reins, he's looking for Hunter Henry early and often in games. He's looking for him in the red zone. He's looking for him from the middle of the field.
Downfield, short.
He is a great, solid pass. He's a solid pass catcher. He doesn't drop the ball a ton.
We've seen this, though, his entire career.
We have. And so there are people out there that are really struggling at the tight end with getting either consistent play there, or they're taking these boom or bust options out there. And I know that there's some other guys, T.J. Hawkinson coming off of IR, but Hunter Henry is going to stay in that top range. He's with a young quarterback. This is a perfect formula for a tight end to be viable and to have a top 10, if not top 5 season, is you're with a young quarterback that needs to get rid of the ball fast, that needs a solid big target option.
A reliable option.
With not a lot of weapons outside of that.
Yeah.
So this is a perfect formula. Go and pick up Hunter Henry for the love of God and all things holy in the world. Go and do it.
Listen to the man.
Double H. Get it on your team, okay?
The other two we have here are Jonnu Smith and Zach Ertz. I kept Zach Ertz on here again because we saw what he performed. He's still low owned. This guy is a veteran with a young quarterback. He's trustworthy. He's the best part, if you watched any of the game too, was when Mariota started to roll out and started to get out of the pocket, he was the first guy to find and roll with. He was the one getting targeted on those rollouts versus some of these receivers who don't always, either they go downfield for the stretch play, for the broken pass, or they don't necessarily turn and see their quarterback rolling out to the opposite direction of them. But the tight ends are usually in the short to intermediate routes are already turned around and can see that and make a one cut and are with them and they're open for options.
It's also the veteran presence. And this goes back to Hunter Henry too. It's Zach Ertz, Hunter Henry, young quarterbacks, or some veteran quarterbacks out there that are less mobile. I mean, Mariota's less mobile than he once was, but he was never a prolific passer in the NFL. So a guy that relied heavily on the tight end position. These are veteran tight ends that know coverages. They know the open zones that teams are facing. They've seen it all. It's like having a veteran quarterback there. They've seen all this stuff before. They know the scramble drill. They know where to go. They know how to protect themselves. They're not going to get hurt. They're not going to take big hits. Yeah, they're not going to be pretty. They're not going to have these long 70-yard touchdowns. But you know what they can do is have 9 to 10 receptions a game, get you 80 to score, and that's going to be perfect for a tight end position.
Well, the beauty of these two guys, too, is they're red zone threats, so they don't even need the nine receptions. You get 5 targets, 4 catches.
I wouldn't say that about Zach Ertz, is that he's a red zone threat. I would say that the main red zone threat for the Washington Commanders is their running backs and running game, and that's what they like to do when they get down there.
Correct.
So,
but if stuffed, the neck, they're not going to the receivers on those shorter pass routes. I mean, you saw Sinnott get his. Ertz got his. Outside of that, they ran the ball in.
Yeah.
It's not the first one, but they're a red zone threat.
Yeah.
The tight ends are a red zone threat in this because they're getting the mismatch. They're getting open quickly enough where these other receivers, whatever routes they have these other receivers running, are taking too long to get open. And young quarterbacks, you hold on to the ball too long, we know what happens.
Well, we said in the preseason too. I mean, we said quarterback. This is a year for quarterback and tight end that you can wait on.
We were not wrong.
They were deep at both positions, and you could wait on either one of those positions. And we're sitting here week 7.
Baker, Geno, Goff.
Yeah, even look at Tucker Kraft.
Yep. Tucker Kraft,
Isaiah Likely, Hunter Henry,
even tight end number 1 technically right now, or tight end 2, I should say, because Kittle's technically 1. But look at the rookie. Look at Brock Bowers. You weren't taking him that early.
No. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good options. We have a couple defensive streamers for you on the screen right now. The Packers against the Jaguars and the Texans versus Indianapolis. Both these great matchups. The Packers and Texans have been above average defenses this year already. I think the Packers, you can argue, aren't really a streamer option. They should be a known defense.
Yeah, because they've been ball hawks. The problem is they've just been giving up too many points because it's not very like Jordan Love, but he's been turning the ball over, giving the ball back in the offense's hands, which has hurt him in games.
Yeah.
But this defense also finds ways to score touchdowns defensively, and they're pretty much almost an interception a game at this point.
Yeah, I mean, so they're a great defense, especially against an offense like Jacksonville, who's been struggling. Obviously, they get the win against the Patriots last weekend, the second game in London, but now they're coming back to the States. Not a great record. Coming back to the States after the 2-week vacation in London for their back-to-back home games out there. So, this is going to be a tough game for them, especially against a Houston team that is very good and wants to continue to win.
Yeah. That's the end of our waivers and streamers for week 8. Things may change. Anything can change during the week. Oh, one thing did pop up on our phones a little bit earlier. Juju Smith-Schuster is already ruled out for week 8 with his hamstring injury. That's not good to have a hamstring injury. Already ruled out on Monday. So that being said, keep an eye out for any others that come. We'll make sure we'll put a short out. Don't forget to like and subscribe and ring that bell for us. Leave a comment, anything you want to say here. And as always, thanks for tuning in.
Hey, keep it classy. Not everything you want to say, but keep it classy, okay?
Well, yeah, sure. If you're talking to me, keep it classy. If you're talking to him, say what you want.
Just say it as dirty as my mustache looks, all right?
Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.